David Des Roches. He's a professor for security studies at the National Defense University and is speaking to us from Bethesda in Maryland. David, it's always good to have you on this news hour. So just tell us why this is so significant.
Well, it's significant in terms of timing. I mean, the Russians had regular port visits to Havana, like from 2011 to 2020. That's not so unusual. What's significant here is a couple things. First off, Russia is involved heavily in the war in Ukraine. Russia's naval power has taken a hit, a real beating. You've seen the flagship of the Russian Black Sea Fleet sunk, about a third of their surface combatants in the Black Sea, and they've had to relocate from Sebastopol into Novorossiysk. Also, at the same time, you've got a Russian guided missile frigate in the Barents Sea in the Pacific on fire. So there's a lot of problems here. So it's a big deal for Russia to show that they still have the ability to project naval power. I think the second thing is, I think they do want for their domestic audience to say, look, just as the United States is supporting a country that is resisting Russia, we can support a country that irritates the United States, Cuba in this instance. And then finally, I think a third thing, which is less likely, is they might want to signal support for Venezuela, which is seeking to annex a significant portion of its neighboring country, Guyana, where they've recently had an oil find. So Venezuela suddenly has an interest in that. I'm not sure if that will play out or not, but that seems to be what's at play here.
And then talk to us about the timing of all of this, because it, of course, comes during a period where Russia has this ongoing war with Ukraine, and we've seen more intense fighting there, Russia gaining a lot of ground, of course. And then there's the growing rift between Russia and the West, especially those NATO countries. And these the Russian fleet is, of course, so close to U.S. waters.
Yeah, good question. So, you know, the timing, I think the timing was dictated more by weather and by when they could get ships ready to go. I mean, this is 4 ships, but one is a submarine, one is a frigate, one is an oil tanker, which is needed to supply the frigate, and then the third one is a salvage tug. That's a little unusual. Normally, you know, the U.S. Navy doesn't have a normal deployment of this sort with a salvage tug. That would seem to indicate that they're hedging their bets against a mechanical breakdown, which has plagued the Russian Navy recently. It's what is really significant, I think, is the submarine. Normally, you don't announce when you have submarines going, particularly if a submarine is going to be sailing so close to Florida, because that gives us an opportunity to surveil it, to find out what its magnetic, electronic, and acoustic signatures are. And our primary airborne sub-hunting base on the east coast of the United States is in Jacksonville, Florida. I know that a U.S. Navy surveillance airplane has made about 20 passes of this so far. So it's kind of tactically not a very bright move, but I think strategically and in terms of showing to Putin's domestic audience that Russia is still a great country, it is significant.
How do you think the United States is viewing all of this? I mean, you've spoken about how close this is to the United States. I mean, it's just Havana's 144 kilometers. That's about 90 miles from Key West, which is the southernmost point of the state of Florida.
Yeah, well, the United States is a maritime nation, and we are more vested in the freedom of the seas than almost any other country in the world. We're very dependent on it. So I think we'd welcome this. And I think when we make our next passage of the Straits of Taiwan, we will point out that, you know, we're visiting sovereign countries just as Russia visited a sovereign country in Cuba. So I think we're not happy to see warships, particularly nuclear-capable warships, in Cuban waters, but the precedent actually helps us. We have more to gain by freedom of navigation in close to disputed waters or close to territorial waters than Russia does.
David Des Roches, always good to get your analysis. Thank you so much.
Thank you.